If Toilet Tower Defense comes back, it might look a lot different. If you were to still play the game, even if it wasn't based off of the meme series, here are 7 updates that would fix any issues of the game losing player count and save it. Let me know which ones you agree with and if you have any other suggestions. Number 1, one of the best updates they could add to this game to keep it fresh without the meme series would be updating the animations. Yeah, this would take longer overall, but a lot of the complaints that I've heard from people on the internet is that the animations could look a lot better for how big the game is. I actually haven't played much Roblox since before I started this channel, so I wasn't really aware of this, but I'm not too concerned about how the game looks animation-wise, but it would certainly be a nice touch, more so than how the current animations look. When you don't have animations and creations that are coming from the animated series, the models you do use should look pretty sick in a game in order to keep the gameplay up. And some of you guys care a lot about animations, which is totally fine, so that would definitely help. The second huge update that can make the game insanely cool and fresh would be a 1v1 mode. Imagine a scenario where you could 1v1 someone and wager coins. So let's say 2 people 1v1, and the higher the difficulty is, the more coins that are wagered. So for example, easy mode, right? The 2 players could wager, I don't know, 50 coins, and then the winner would get 100 coins. This could go all the way up to Nightmare, where players wager like 500 or even 1,000 coins, and you could win up to 2,000. These 1v1s would probably work the best in a scenario in who could beat the map of a certain difficulty faster. If you want to get really crazy, imagine the ability to spend the cash you get in-game on punishments for your opponent. So I'm talking about the cash you use on units and upgrades and stuff. So if they're beating you, you could spend, I don't know, 500 cash to send an extra boss to them, or spend 1,000 cash to freeze them for 20 seconds. Crazy things like that would make the 1v1 modes really competitive. Then players can track their wins and losses, and that could even lead to like a professional league type thing where players need a certain amount of wins to compete. And there, who knows, the wagers could go even higher. Think like Blade Ball has the pro league for getting 50 wins. This would also be good for players who don't have to pay to get more coins, as they could just win them with skill. Some people do have issues with a lot of Roblox games being pay to win, so something like this could definitely help against that in terms of whatever Toilet Tower Defense turns into. The third update that could really refresh the game would be more maps in general, and not just more maps in general in a normal sense, like what we have been getting, but maps that are inherently harder than the others. Think about it. Before, when difficulties were locked into a certain map you were in, for example, Toilet HQ was always easy, it was based always around the wave amount and the type of bosses that come out in terms of how hard is it. But now that we can play any difficulty on any map, Toilet HQ on easy versus Paradise on easy feels pretty similar in my opinion. I think if they were to come back, they should add harder maps that are harder based off of the paths itself and the terrain of the map. I mean, imagine a map that's extra hard because it has multiple paths or even, multiple floors to it. Who knows? This would not only make the game more challenging for the players that want it, but it would make the players more engaged during the gameplay. I mean, I don't know about you guys, but a lot of the times where I would end up grinding this game, after I got good at it, it just became more of a mindless grind for coins. I mean, I could go on any map on hard mode, place the same units, same locations, and call it a day. I mean, I do remember just using different units instead of like the Ninja Cameraman and stuff like that just for fun. But having harder maps that are hard because of their pathways would surely make the gameplay itself more fun, because I've heard complaints about the game just becoming a mindless grind, after a while, once you know how to do it and you have the good units. For number 4, let's talk about some smaller like quality of life updates that the game should have. So these aren't going to be like crazy game updates, right? But just more, when I say quality of life, things that make the game easier without you really noticing them as much, but you'll appreciate them when you see them. One of the things I was surprised wasn't in the game yet was seeing a price when you sell a unit, how much that sale would be. A lot of strategizing in the moment goes into selling a certain unit, and knowing if you'll have enough for the unit you want to replace it with would be really helpful. Like let's say you have 300 cash and there's units going to your base really fast and you have to sell a really good unit, but you want to know if you have enough money to buy a bigger unit. That's where it would come into play. And I'm kind of surprised, like I said, that it wasn't there from the start. Also, as a partner of the game, it would be really cool if signing in a unit could actually affect how it performed in game, or even how much you could sell the unit for. So like, for example, if you had a signed unit, you could sell it for, I don't know, twice the amount of a regular unit. Obviously, the person who signs it, the partners can't do that, because then that's just abusing the power. Or even if in the game, signed units have a slight damage upgrade or a slight range upgrade. Nothing too crazy, but something else added just besides having it look a little bit different visually with the signature, obviously. Also, as a partner, I'd feel extra cool signing stuff for you guys, because I know it would actually affect like the in-game stats. We're still on the topic of smaller quality of life things. Now imagine if the game had your stats for things like the amount of units you've summoned, what units you've gotten from summons, how many wins you had on each map in each game mode. Much like them adding the trading history, little things like that keep the game feeling important. A lot of guys out there probably probably would grind for a certain amount of wins, a certain amount of wins on a certain map, a certain amount of kills with a certain unit, you know what I mean? This next one, number 5, is one of my favorite ideas that if implemented into this game whenever it does come back would be awesome. I'm talking about specific events. There could be weekend events, let's say, lasting between, I don't know, Friday and Sunday night, right? Where there's themed events that run throughout that weekend that reward grinding the game. So I feel like a lot of players, as they get good at the game, they just worry more about trading and not playing the game as much. For example, having events where you need to get the most wins on Nightmare mode, right? Or the most wins on a, I don't know, a certain map, or even the most wins with rare units only. And the event for that weekend, it would last those 3 days, Friday through Sunday, and there'd be leaderboards floating around in the game of the event winners, or I guess the event leaders at the time. And there could be scaled rewards with this. So for example, right, let's say the top 100 people for that event get coins, and the closer you are to number 1, the higher your coin reward. But even in this situation, you could do like, let's say the top 10 players get gems, and maybe the top player for the event gets a special event unit. I don't know what that special event unit would look like, but this could result in endless content, give players a reason, especially to come back during the weekends where the player count is really high. I know personally I would love to not touch grass on certain weekends, just grinding really specific events for special rewards. That'd be so cool and would essentially guarantee new content every weekend. Let's move on to update number 6 that could save this game if it does come back. Remember how I mentioned 1v1s earlier? Update number 6 kind of piggybacks off of that. Something you could use for 1v1s could be a ranked mode as well. So yes, you can 1v1 players casually, but imagine an entire ranked system, much like, you know, any other game. You could get ranked rewards, maybe ranked plaques that show up next to your name in the game as well. This would just be another update that would save players having fun over a long period of time, as obviously you need to give people a reason to keep coming back to the game other than just, I don't know, like grinding mythics and stuff. Like let's say you reach the top rank, right? You'd have this like maybe like a shining nameplate around your name. You could go in the lobbies and flex that like, oh, I'm diamond ranked or whatever. There's just so much that could go into that. All right, I've taken you through 6 of them. If you made it this far and you're new to this channel, I appreciate you subscribing. Let's get into number 7. The last one, the final update that I think would be crucial but also awesome to keep the game popular, would be introducing new rarity tiers. Now, I'm not talking like a whole different tier above Mythic. I'm thinking like a 2.0 series. Now, hear me out. This is what I mean. Imagine for the higher, you know, rarity units, let's say Legendary, Mythic, and Exclusive, you could eventually upgrade them to their, quote, 2.0 version. This would not be pay to win. It would be play to win. Now, imagine, let's say, for a certain unit, let's think of a Mythic unit. Let's say if you get 20,000 kills with that unit, it could give you the 2.0 version. This would mean, for example, like once you reach that level, that unit's damage, range, other stats would be higher than the normal version. That could be a great incentive for players to, once again, grind out those maps, and that could go hand in hand with events, and it would just always count. It would always be working up to that kill counter to get it to that 2.0 version. This would mean, however, that there would have to be stronger bosses, right? As having a buff to the units, but not the bad guys, it wouldn't work. Obviously, you need to balance them out, which is good. That just adds more bosses, obviously, which people wouldn't mind. It would give you guys even more of a reason to grind certain units. For example, especially this one is cool. You know the Secret Agent, which maxes out at like 200,000 damage? Imagine having a 2.0 version that maxes out at 400,000 damage. Now, it would be such a grind, especially with the Secret Agent, right? It would be such a grind to get so many kills with that, but then you could have one of the most powerful units in the game. Imagine a 2.0 version of a Secret Agent doing like 400, 500,000 damage a shot to some of the bosses. It would be something that everyone wants to get. And then once you have those 2.0 units, you could trade them away as well, and those trade values would be so high for other players. Like imagine a 2.0 engineer, right, that does a lot more damage. It'd be such a high trade value because of the time and effort that the person who owns it took into getting it. It would just add such a big layer not only to the gameplay but trading as well, because people love trading, so there'd be such a reason to grind for it because they could trade away for such cool stuff. I bet that would be awesome. But also, you know, you kind of want to flex when you have a 2.0 unit, let's say. So something silly you could add to that, well, if you do get the 2.0 version, maybe the skin of that certain unit could be like coated in gold or have like a big shiny outline to it, so people know, like if you're playing with friends or you're playing with randoms, like, yeah, that's 2.0 unit. Yes, I'm a sweat. Deal with it. You can flex in lobbies. It's great. It's great. Well, what do you guys think? I mean, I have a lot of hope that this game will come back in some way. I do believe it will look a lot different, but these are my ideas in order to make the game fresh and to keep the player base, you know, that we know know this game can potentially have. I'm not throwing in the towel yet. I do want to be a tower defense channel with this game, when whatever name it might be called. So hopefully we can get it back soon. If you have any ideas, I'd love to hear them in the comments as well. Maybe you guys would have some cool update ideas that I haven't even thought of. And yeah, that's basically it. I will see you guys in the next one.